All right, I'm going to continue on. This is where I left off right before the break. The installation was complete, so I'm going to click Next. And it says, what do you want to do? Well, I'm going to start up Android Studio, which is the default, so I'm going to click Finish here. And it should start it up. That's not Android Studio. This is Camtasia is producing for me. All right. So what happens when you open this up is it looks similar to what we saw when we opened up IntelliJ IDEA. It looks pretty similar to what we had. Okay? Now, when you look at the stuff that's out here, let's just take a quick look. All right? And I'm not going to lie to you that some of the stuff on here I've never used. All right? We're going to start a new Android Studio project in just a minute. But notice, after, right now it's not showing any. But after we create the first one, it should show that there. Just kind of like it did in IntelliJ IDEA. All right? Check out a project from version control. So this is an example where if you were using Git or something similar to that, and you branched from the master and you created your own branch, you could check out a copy of it and make changes to it. All right? So in other words, this supports version control. Profile or debug an APK file. The APK is pretty much, it's almost like your executable. Not quite, but it's like your executable. Import a project. So if you had a project, what's really big here is for years, most everyone who was doing Android development used Eclipse. They didn't use Android Studio because it didn't exist. All right? So the reason I'm telling you that is there are a lot of projects that are out there that people did previously in Eclipse. If you had one of those and wanted to bring it in, that's what you'd choose. All right? And I've never done anything with a code sample, so I can't say anything about that. All right? So I'm going to come in and start a new Android Studio project. All right? Now, this is going to look a little different. It's going to be a little different. And Colin, hopefully when you asked me that question yesterday, I didn't screw up the answer. All right? But, it was just, hopefully it was just a practice project you were working on anyway. All right? But we're going to do the old infamous Hello World project. All right? So what we're going to put here for the application name. First thing to notice, please look. You can, C-A-N, can have blank spaces in this. Now, by default, unless you go and make changes when you're all done, this is the name of your app. Does that make sense? So if Ethan decides he's going to do this, he's got this really cool idea, he's going to do guitar tuning differently than any of those other apps out there, he might call it Ethan space guitar space tuner, something like that, and that's fine. But you'll notice that even though we've got this here and it's got a space, it doesn't have one in here. So when it creates the location for it, it will not do that. Does that make sense to everybody? Right, yes.
And then even those other folders, so if you have like a file name ranking school and you put it in there with space, it will not let you do that if you have it in the file location.
Okay. All right. So the company domain name, we're not going to put it backwards because it's going to appear backwards in just a minute. So here we're going to put in, for me, for example, jpscott at rankin.edu. Notice it's building the package for you, all right, and it's building it, and I guess I can't spell Rankin. All right. And it builds the package name by taking whatever the name is of your application and appending it on the end of the reverse domain notation of your company domain. I didn't do this before, I should have, but since it's going to be a Hello World, I'm just going to call this Hello World, and you don't have to make it one word, but I will anyway. All right? What? Yeah, that's not good. I hit it. this will be good. Okay. Now, notice by default, you know what by default means, unless told otherwise, that by default it's putting it in a certain location. In my case, under C users Rankin, Android Studio Projects, Hello World. Well, I should be able to click on the ellipsis if I want to, for example, to go under the C drive and try to find users, Rankin. I'm looking for my desktop, and I don't remember the exact path for that. All right, but you get the idea. All right. In fact, I can find it this way. No, it's not showing me it that way. Here we go. So for my path, that's what I want. All right. And if I click OK, then you can see it's putting it there. So that's the project location. All right. Now, I don't know if it's going to give me an error here. I may have to go, I don't remember. I should have checked it out beforehand. Colin, do you remember? Do you have to make a folder that you're going to put it in first, or does it make the folder for you?
I didn't try it without it.
Did
Yeah.
Like if you do like project location and have desktop and then put another slash and then put something after it, like in the project thing, it should make a folder with that name.
Otherwise, I was doing how you product with IntelliJ.
Yeah.
Make folders for
Yeah.
That should.
And I didn't know if we'd have to do that or not, because I know some people didn't like that. You're right. That should work. We'll find out. All right. Looks like it did. All right. Let's take a look at the stuff that's here. Okay. What we will do literally for everything we're doing in this class, everything, you'll always have phone and tablet. Everybody hear that? Unless you plan on doing something that's going to be for Android Wear or for a TV or your, an auto. And if you want to do that, you can. Okay, for your final project. But for now, we're just going to keep this. This is the recommended ice cream sandwich. So again, you'll notice in here, that's at the, you can't go really any lower than that. See that? But you can go higher. You can go all the way up to API 27. I don't even know what that is. I think that's the latest Oreo. All right, but I'm just going to leave it where it was, which is what they recommend on ice cream sandwich. All right. Now, it says here, include Android Instant App support. We're just going to leave that off. We'll talk about that later. Okay, but it should be fine for now. So, in other words, again, we're keeping all of the defaults. Notice here, they even have a thing on here that says, help me choose. The reason that that's important is, let's assume that you're all working on your end of semester projects, all right? And let's say Valerie has a plan, she's going to create this app and it's got some really cool stuff in it. But she finds out that all that really cool stuff wasn't added until KitKat, let's say. Okay? Then she was going to want to make sure that her minimal SDK is not set to ice cream sandwich, it's set to KitKat. Does that make sense? All right. Yes.
I was going to ask if you can set it to that, and for the lowest one, it'll just dynamically do.
No, if you set it to the lowest one's still not going to be able to use features and functionality of the later stuff that's in there. It doesn't have the ability just because you set something like that in there.
So you have to create like two separate apps?
Yes. Or you'd have to basically put some check in your code that near the beginning of it, like in your onCreate, that would check the version that the person using the program was running. And if they were using a certain version, you would have to either tell them that they'd have to re-up, or they would only get a scaled down version of whatever it was you're working with. All right, so I'm going to click Next. Now, if you look on the screen here, for now, we're just going to use the default, which is empty activity. That's the one right here. All right, you'll notice as I go down, every time I go through here, there's a lot more than there used to be. This is going to start building stuff for us. This is the equivalent of what we had when we were working in C# and you made a Windows form application and you got the form to come up on the screen. That's the equivalent of doing this. That's basically what we're doing right now. So we're going to choose that, click Next again. Again, all we've done so far has been the defaults. All right? So it's showing us right now we're going to have an empty activity. All right? Now it says, what do you want to name that activity? Okay? For now, we're again just going to keep the defaults. And if you look at it, you're like, wait a minute. You've got main activity and you've got activity main. Yeah. All right? Don't worry about it. Okay. We're all done, so we click Finish. Again, it might take a couple minutes. Notice it says Building Hello World Gradle Project Info. And Gradle is something that comes with the software. All right, Gradle is something that comes with the software, and it basically is doing the coordination of all of your different kinds of files. Your .java files, your .xml files, etc. It's doing the build. All right, and probably it's normally not going to take this long. I mean, this project has nothing in it, but yours might take a bit too because it's the first time with the software being in there, but it should go a lot faster after that. All right. Now, let's pretend for just a second, if you'd all look up on the screen here for a second, let's pretend that, all right, that this is where I'm getting that stuff from. So let's pretend that you fell behind. Well, this article that I've given you right here, it's got a thing in here, and we just followed these 13 steps. We opened Android Studio. Under the Quick Start, we chose Start a New Android Project. We gave it a name. We gave it a company name. We set our location. We clicked Next. We made sure phone and tablet was the only one checked. We checked our minimal SDK. SDK is an acronym for Software Development Kit. All right. We clicked Next. We selected blank activity. We clicked Next. We left everything the way it was, and we clicked Finished. So all we did was the same stuff that they show in here. So if you didn't understand it, if it didn't make sense, you can take a look at this document. The book goes into this stuff in a lot more depth and breadth of coverage. Also, again, just in case you care, this first document right here, like I said, it's 45 pages long. And out of those 45 pages, probably 30-some pages are screenshots. They run through every single frickin' thing that you do in here. So again, if you need more information than what you think I'm giving you right now, you'll be able to take a look at those. All right? And mine's still building, which I don't like. All right. I'm going to let it just go for a second. The project that they have you build in here, when eventually this comes up, okay, we're going to talk about emulators and a few other things. But when you run your first app, when you create your first app, literally, it's without those green lines and the blue stuff in there, and we run it on an emulator, it's going to be right in the middle of the screen. It's going to say, hello, world. Not much, but it's going to do that. And if we can do that, then you've all built an app, and you've all gotten that app to run. That's an important start. All right. Then, after we get done with that, we will take a look at the changes they have you make in here, and we'll see where we are in the period. All right. And if there's time, we'll go on and we'll take a look at the next document. All right. Like I said, as far as I'm concerned, if we get through the stuff I've given you today, all right, and if it's fine. If it turns out that it's Friday and we still have time, great. Then we'll go into chapter 3 of the book. And if it turns out we need all that time, I'd rather spend a little bit more time at the outset here, just so you're aware of that. I don't know why that's happening like that, but it is. Did yours take a long time when you ran your first one?
Yeah.
Well, because I've never had it take that long before. No. Yeah. Now, one of the things that I have to do, I think you said this too, Ethan, is I'm going to have to make sure that I set up, for each one of the machines, I'm going to set up a Gmail account. And that's basically how you're going to get in to the tablets once we have them. We have the tablets, they're right in the next room. All right. I'm going to see if I cancel that and try it again if it fixes. Yeah, but see, unlike the rest of you, you don't all have Camtasia running and Camtasia running in the background where I'm taping and Camtasia running in the background where I'm producing a document. So I have no idea. I don't remember, though I've done this before, I don't remember it ever taking that long before. So I probably could also close a few things. Okay, what's his suggestion?
You check the offline work under global Gradle setting.
Okay.
I don't know.
Well, I just closed a bunch of stuff.
From 12 minutes to 5 seconds.
That's a good return on investment. Okay, if you look up on my screen here, it's telling me that it's giving me an error, and it's telling me that I'm missing a platform. If you ever get anything like that, I should be able to just click on this, and it's actually downloading what it needs. So it's telling me I have something missing that I need for my project. All right, so I'm just going to let it load. Well, what happens is, as we get into this and I show you the SDK, you're going to constantly want to be checking that for updates. I mean, they do. This is not like Apple, which pretty much updates its operating system once a year. They'll do this quite often. Quite often there'll be updates. It very well could be. That's why I said I didn't want to have this week be where we were thinking all about tablets or anything else. I wanted everybody to be able to get on the system, start to run things, and have it work. while this is doing its thing, let me just jump into this. And this is that 45-page article. They do mention on here, and it's a two-part article. This is part 1. All right. So notice what they say they do in here. Download and install Android Studio. Set up testing for your emulator. Create a simple Hello World app, and then import a sample project into Android Studio, rather. They do mention that it's set up for a Mac. That said, they go all the way through installing Java. You already have Java, so you could skip all that stuff. All right, and that gets you into here. When they tell you to go out to the URL that we went out to, choose the download button, which we did. Getting Android Studio, they run through everything. So if you're worried that you missed something or whatever, you can take a look at it. All right. We came in, we started up a new Android project, and it said here, and that's probably what I should have done, at the bottom of the welcome screen, there's something down here, down towards the bottom, that says configure, and if we click that, there was a check for updates. Everybody see this? Because you can do this anytime you start a new project. There should be this stuff down here. And if you click on the down arrow, you can check for updates. And if you do that, you should always have the most up-to-date software on your machine. All right? And as Colin mentioned, this is already loading something on mine. There's no guarantee that when it gets done, it's done. Because sometimes putting in one update spurns that you need the fact that you need another update. And I don't mean that, you know, every single day you get on this, there's going to be updates. No. But it could very well be weekly there are updates. All right? So notice what it says. When it'll give you the message and it'll say, what do you want to do? I would recommend that you always update and restart, just so you've got the latest and greatest. That's all. Because a lot of times when there's an update, it's because somebody has found an error or things that can happen when you run a program. It can lock up and anything might happen. So the idea is this has got a fix in it. All right. And you can see that mine looks like it's, well, this is still going, but I'm going to click finish. All right, there's Java code. That's something. Okay, and here it says it failed, and it's probably because I didn't do the sync. All right. Hopefully I'm not re-downloading what I just downloaded, but I probably am. I don't remember where the sync is on here either. I should have done a better job of going back and looking at this stuff before we started. All right, I've done all this. It's just been about a year. Well, we're going to find out right now. Project sync process. If you'd look up on the screen here for a second, please. All right. in many ways, this is going to look a lot like what we had in IntelliJ IDEA. Some ways it's different, but in some ways it'll be similar. Now, if you look here, this is basically our project window, all right? And you saw that before. If you remember, that's where we had to go and add our classes, etc. We did all that stuff. But if you look here, this is your work window right here, all right? And if you look, it's still giving me an error on here, but you can go into two modes that are right here. You can go into either design mode, which is what we're in right now, or you can go into text mode. It's not letting me go into text mode because whatever error that I had, all right, not letting me go into design mode. Whatever error that I had before, it isn't being fixed. And some stuff is still happening. It's still doing this Gradle build. So I don't know what the heck is going on. I've never seen this happen before. I get that. But I remember doing this before, and it did not take this long. We had problems, but it wasn't this problem. All right. But if you take a look up on your screen right now, this is what I want to show you. All right, you'll notice, if we look right here, see where it says Android Text Hello World? That is the same thing as you manually going in there and forcing that text to go in there, as opposed, there it is. There's your emulator, all right, for lack of better words. That's kind of the way it's going to look when we run this in just a minute, all right, just so you're aware of that. You'll see it in just a bit, all right. Gradle window, and we've got a... No, it's not the emulator. It's a picture on the screen where we can draw our interface, but it's not going to look that different. The emulator will look like a phone, but it won't look that different than this. All right? Okay. So, what I want you to do, if you would, and I'm hoping that you're all at this point. If you're not, then just watch. You will get there. But what I want you to see is, under App, I want you to see these folders here, these three. The one called Manifests, the one called Java, and the one called Res. All right? If I go to Manifests, notice what's out there. The file called AndroidManifest.xml. We did look at this. I'm opening the file now. We did look at this file, all right? We looked at this when we were going over chapter 1 of the book. And it's got certain things for us. It tells us the version of XML. It tells us that we're using Unicode. And since it's XML, there's our beginning manifest tag. There's our ending manifest tag. What I want to tell you is this. When we start to build the interface, if you look up on the screen, please, when we start to build the interface, you can either go in and just start dragging stuff onto this thing, all right, and we're going to do that in just a bit, or you can write it in here. So if I wanted another one of these text things, so notice that right here it says Hello World. I'm going to change it to Hello World. How are you? And you may or may not be able to tell, it changed right here. All right? So I'm showing you how you can change things. That's not the way we're going to change them, but I'm showing you how you can change things. All right? Okay. Now, this manifest file will probably very rarely, if ever, use, except for, like I told you, things like setting the orientation to portrait only or landscape only. We probably won't do hardly anything, if anything, with it. Under the Java folder, okay, well, this shouldn't be that big of a surprise. If I go and just drill down to the first one here, there's that main activity. This was what was created. Remember, right at the end, we told it to call it main activity. This is our Java code. This is where we will add code. Now, you'll notice that there's also an Android test and a test. You should never have to use those for any reason with what we're doing here. You never should. So just be the first one. All right, then we've got this one. This is the big one, this res. All right, because in this res folder, it's got all sorts of stuff in it. Notice that there are 4 folders. There is a drawable folder. We're going to look at these in just a minute. There's a layout folder. There's a map folder, and there's a values folder. All right. As we start to look in what's inside of each one of these, I'll start at the beginning with drawable. All right. What's going to happen as we make more sophisticated projects is that folder, that drawable, is going to expand. That's typically where you put your images. Just so you know, images when you are working with any language that has apps, images, sound files, etc., they're all referred to as assets. A-S-S-E-T-S. Okay? So what I'm telling you is you're going to see the word assets much more than you're going to see the word image or the word sound or whatever. All right? Then notice we've got a layout file. And what's in there? That's our activity main. That's where that is located. Then we've got mipmap. All right? And this is our launcher stuff. So what you can do by default, everybody hears that, by default, when you go and you create an app, what's going to happen is on your machine, on the tablet, it's going to show you an icon. So if we created an app called Hello World, it's going to show you an icon, and the text underneath it's going to say Hello World. By default, unless you change them, every one of these icons is going to look the same. It's going to be the little green logo that you have for Android. We'll change that as we go on. But I just want you to know that's what's in there. Finally, there's values. Okay? And if you look in values, you'll notice that there's 3 files. There's a colors, and if I open it up, that's all that's in there. I can define my own color schemes. You know how we worked with Bootstrap and we worked with themes? We would always grab a theme. You can create your own themes in here if you want to do that. Again, that's a more advanced topic, so we probably won't have the time to go over that. But I'm just wanted to mention it to you. The strings is what I mentioned. All right? So right now we have just the app name. So in here, in our activity main, where I've got this thing here that says hello world, etc., what we're going to end up doing is we're going to take that text that says hello world and we're going to end up putting it in here. And again, the reason that you do that is for localization purposes. So we could have one of these, if we had this app in 10 different languages, we could have 10 of these strings files. One for each one of the languages. All right. We've also got a styles file. All right, you look at it, well, that looks a lot like what we did with color. Yeah, but this is the key thing. Okay? And that is Android comes with about 3 or 4 built-in themes. All right? You can create your own theme. You can buy third-party themes. Or you can use one of the built-in themes. Again, because we don't have time to go over every single nuance that's in the language, all right? We're just going to end up using probably the default most of the time. What I'm going to suggest to you is when we get to that point, play around with this stuff. All right? And play around with it because, you know, if you're going to, I've already told you that one of the things you're going to have to do for this class is you're going to have to create an app and at least submit it to the App Store. All right? There is a one-time charge to do that. It's $25. If anybody in here tells me, I'm sorry, I have no money, you're going to have to see me, and I'm going to have to go to Charles and see if I can get $25 for you. Could I just give you the $25? I could. They don't want me to do that because then I'm starting a precedent. Then what happens if it's a year from now and I'm teaching it and I have 10 people who come up to me and say, I don't have $25. Well, I don't have $250 to lay out. All right? But if that becomes an issue, you're going to have to let me know. Don't let me know now. All right? It won't be probably till about April or somewhere around there, at least March sometime, before we finish this and then finish the Kotlin stuff. But what I wanted to show you, all right, this is really scaled down from the way that it used to be. Just so you know, this used to be a hell of a lot bigger. This stuff's all draggable and droppable, etc. All right. So I showed you the activity main. Like I said, this is your program, but it is your program GUI. So that's what's in the activity main file. All right. Then we looked at our main activity. That's your Java. Okay. So if we created a very simple application, let's say that we created something that looked like this. And we had here, let's say, name. Okay. And you put your name in there. And then underneath here we had a label. So I put Jeff in here, and I have a button here that says show name. And I click that button, and now it says Jeff in here. Now that's kind of a stupid program, but you get the idea. What I'm telling you is the code for the button click would have to be put in here. All right. So that's what that Java file is used for. So we've looked at our activity main. We've looked at our main activity. Notice that the activity main is an XML file, extensible markup language. So every time we have something in here, by and large, all right, when we put in something into XML, there'll be a beginning tag and an ending tag. There's the beginning Android support tag. There's the ending Android support tag. If you look at colors, there's the beginning color tag, the ending color tag, etc. About the only thing that doesn't have an ending tag is the actual XML header that's up on the top. All right. So there's your colors. There will be your strings. There will be your styles. We're probably going to do almost nothing with styles. All right. But if you decide that you want to start doing some work with colors, maybe you really love pink backgrounds and blue writing or whatever, you can start to do some of that stuff as we go on. All right. And I mentioned to you the manifest file as well and what that is. All right. Okay. Again, I'm just trying to make sure I'm being complete or as complete as I can be in here with this stuff. All right. Okay, so again, right now I am in text mode. And if you notice down here, get rid of that. Sorry. There are two tabs. There is a tab for design and there is a tab for text. Well, now I'm going to click the other tab. Okay? All right. Now, look a little different than the way it looked before. All right? Yours may or may not look exactly like this. All right? And if it doesn't, you may have to go and run your program first to make it look like that. The good news is you know how to run it because it's virtually the same way we did it in IntelliJ. You click here. And the top one there says Run App. All right? Okay. Now, you may or may not be able to see this. I wish it, there we go. A little hard to see. I think I can make this bigger. There used to always be a zoom. Yeah. Thank you. See that? Remember where I added the how are you onto Hello World? So you can see that it's in there. All right? Now, what you find when you start working on this stuff is this stuff can all be moved around. Okay? All the stuff. You could, and I believe it's not even it is dockable. So you can move it to other parts of the screen. I'd recommend never moving it. But if this is too big, you can make it smaller, etc. All right? So, look on the screen if you would. I'm going to take the mouse and I'm going to click on, I'm going to take the mouse and I'm going to click on right here. I haven't clicked on it yet, but I'm going to click on it right here. See what happens? This is the equivalent now of the properties window. All right? And why am I telling you that? Because take a look right here. Do you see how it says this and how it says, hello world, how are you? Everybody see this? All right, I'm going to remove that. So now there's no text in there. And I'm going to click, next to it, I'm going to click the ellipsis. All right, and it goes over there and it says resources. Where am I? Wow. I wish they wouldn't have changed this since the last time I used it, but they did. All right. Add new resource, new string value. It says, what name do you want to give it? All right. And I'm just going to give it I don't know. I'm going to call it hello. All right. And its value will be hello world. All right. And I'm going to click OK. Now, you may not be able to tell, but it now says hello world in there. Why did I show you that? Who cares? This is why you should care. Because see what I added? That's how you will add labels. That's how you will add text on buttons. That's how you will do all this. So I'm going to assume that I did it too fast. Somebody's like, I didn't even catch that. You know, I'm totally confused. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this. All right. It's gone now. Okay. And I'm going to go back into my activity main file where I was right here. All right. See, that stays, even though it's gone. All right. And in fact, I'm going to even remove this. All right. So this was, boom. Now there's nothing in there. Okay. So I'm going to go down and let's assume it doesn't matter which one of these I grab. All right. And notice this has got everything I believe in it right here. And it's put into different areas. So see how it changes? All right. I'm just going to go into text right here. And I'm just going to go and drag out plain text. Dragging it out, trying to center it somewhat. You see, I get the guidelines and I'm letting go. And you can see it says name. Okay? So that's how easy it is to add components. All right? Widgets, whatever you want to call them. So I go over to here, and I'm looking over here, and I'm like, you know what? I got it. Wrap content. Well, what happens if I change it from wrap content to match constraint? What happens if I go and check the other one and set the height to match constraint? Well, and you look and you say, it's not there anymore. It's there, but when you choose match constraint, it says only use the room that it needs. And there's no code in there. There's nothing in there right now, so it made it real small. So if I want something to take up a lot of room, I'll choose match parent. And if I want it to take up a little bit of room, all right, I'll choose the match constraint, wrap content or match constraint. So there it's back. Okay. Now, I'm just going through a few of these things. Do I expect you to remember this stuff? No. But I want you to see it. All right. So I want to go back up here. I'm going to grab a text view. Those are easier to work with. All right. So there's my text view. Notice if you look on the screen, can I manually go out here and drag this stuff? Sure looks like it to me. But it's a lot harder to do it that way. This isn't really as intuitive or as easy to work with, by and large, as what you found probably in Visual Studio. All right. So I've got text in there. It just says text view. Now just watch if you would. I'm going to literally remove that text in that text view and click this ellipsis that's right here. All right. Then I'm going to go over here and choose add new resource, new string value. All right. I'm going to call this, I don't know, let's call it title. All right. And this is my title. All right. And as soon as I put that in, that changes to this is my title. And if I look in my strings file, I now have the name that I gave it, title, and this is my title. All right. The reason I'm telling you that is you should be able to, and not only do I not mind if while I'm talking, you start dragging some stuff out there and playing with it, that's what you should do. You're going to learn by making a boatload of mistakes. That is the best way to learn. All right. So if you say, well, yeah, if you learn by making mistakes, I'm an A student. All right. Yeah, but that's good. All right. There's, I don't want to go off on too big a tangent with that, but you're going to learn a lot more through your failures than you are through your successes. If you drag about 3 or 4 things out there and you make a couple changes and you run it and it works, you probably didn't learn very much. But if you drag a few things out there and you get an error or two and you have to debug it, you're going to learn a lot more. All right, because you probably won't make the error again the next time. All right. in much the same way if I wanted to do this. I'm coming back here again. That's too big. Well, if you look at the stuff that's down here, there's different, it looks like there's not that many properties. Okay, so see how I can change my width and height here? All right, we already talked about those. I can put in my own values too if I want to. So the width is now 180. I'm going to change it to 90. See what happened? So you can manually change things too. All right, but if I get down to the bottom, it says view all attributes. Now there's a lot more. And I'm not going to go and take the time to do this right now, but one of the things that's in there is there's a bunch of stuff for fonts. So if I wanted to change the font type or the font size or the bold or italic, I can do that. All right. I don't care about that control, so I'm just going to get rid of it. All right. Now I'm going to come over here for all, and I want to find button. I want to drag a button out here because this might be the most important part of what we talked about today. Okay? And that is this. When you go to buttons and you go down to here, okay, everybody see this where it says on click? Kind of remember that from JavaScript? All right, I'm going to click in there and I'm going to literally just type show my name and I'm going to hit enter. Okay, why did I do that? You double click on it, nothing happens like what magically happened in C# when we double clicked on a form, but when I go over to my main activity.java, it now will understand that there is a, whoops, there, sorry, that when I come into here and I type in, for example, I don't know, public, what was it called? I don't remember. Say, show my name? Show my name. All right. And I start putting in code. Don't worry about the error. When I start putting in code, the system is letting me know that when I click that button, this is the routine to call. So it's not as seamless as it was when we worked with C#, where you just double clicked on something to make it work. All right. The other thing that you'll notice too is as we go on, is you're able to do it the other direction or do it the other way also. All right. I want to show you a couple more things and we'll take another break. Okay. I think what we'll do is we'll take a break right now, and then we're going to try to build what's in here when we get back. All right? So let's take a break. It's 2:23. Let's come back, please, around 2:35, and we'll pick it up there.